Welcome to Reinventing Broadcast, where AI meets content. Here we have a bonus episode for you. Let's dive in.
So imagine a massive live sporting event, right? Millions of people are just on the edge of their seats, staring at their screens, totally invested.
Screaming at the players, probably.
Oh, absolutely screaming. The tension in living rooms across the country is just unbearable. And now, imagine the broadcast stream drops.
This goes totally dark.
Right. Even just for like 5 seconds right before the winning goal is scored. I mean, the national outrage would be instantaneous. Social media would just completely melt down.
It would be front page news the next day for sure.
Exactly. So today we're unpacking the invisible, really high-stakes mega project that was designed to ensure that specific 5-second blackout never, ever happens.
Because, keeping a stream alive for one person on a smartphone, it's relatively straightforward these days. But keeping it alive for an entire country simultaneously,
Right,
while uniting all these completely different legacy media ecosystems into one single platform, that requires an entirely different species of engineering. I mean, it really requires a masterclass in large-scale human coordination.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand the sheer scale of what we're diving into today with you, you have to picture building a brand new, ultra-modern transit system for a massive metropolis.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right, but here's the catch. You are tasked with perfectly connecting several different legacy train lines that were built like decades apart using totally different gauges of track.
And you can't stop the trains.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to do all this heavy construction without a single commuter ever noticing a disruption to their morning journey.
And that transit system isn't just carrying commuters, right? It's carrying national culture. I mean, historically, major content providers operated entirely within their own walled gardens.
They had their own stuff.
Exactly. Their own broadcast towers, proprietary delivery methods, completely distinct ways of just doing things.
Right.
But the tectonic plates of media have shifted. Everyone expects IP delivery now.
Which is just streaming over the internet.
Right. Streaming is the undeniable baseline now.
Yeah, we want the app. I mean, we just want to be able to click a button on our remotes and have the entire world of content instantly available.
But, and this is the kicker, viewers also demand the absolute bulletproof reliability of traditional broadcasting.
Oh, for sure.
Like, people might tolerate a buffering screen on, I don't know, a short viral video on their phone.
Yeah, you just wait a second.
Right. But they absolutely will not tolerate a buffering screen during a major national election broadcast or a championship final.
Heads would roll.
Literally.
Yeah.
So building this unified streaming platform wasn't just some fun technical experiment. It was a survival mandate for these national providers to remain relevant and easily discoverable in a really fragmented digital landscape.
Okay, so you have this monumental mandate, right? Build the ultimate unified national streaming platform, but you're dealing with massive, historically independent organizations. My first instinct, and I think most people's instinct, would be that you just get all the smartest engineers from each company, put them in a giant room, and tell them to start coding a super app.
Which is a guaranteed recipe for a very expensive, very public failure.
Really? Just diving into the tech doesn't work.
Not at this scale. Before anyone touched a keyboard or, wrote a single line of code, the project leadership had to build an incredibly rigorous governance framework. Because you do not solve a cross-functional delivery of this magnitude with technology first. You solve it with human collaboration.
Which, honestly, when I hear that, it sounds a lot like heavy corporate meetings. I'm looking at the notes on this, and there's meticulous risk logs, issue tracking, these giant stakeholder maps. It sounds like, I don't know, bureaucracy just holding back the actual builders.
I get that. But it only looks like bureaucracy if you don't understand the blast radius of a mistake. What's fascinating here is how they took this monolithic, totally intimidating challenge and broke the delivery down.
Into smaller pieces.
Right, into 8 distinct, highly coordinated work streams. They set up dedicated streams for IP streaming, video-on-demand applications, metadata and reporting, personalization, platform resilience, and a few others.
Okay, so dividing and conquering.
Yes, but with strict coordination. Because if you let the streaming engineers just run fast and break things without, say, actively consulting the metadata team, the entire platform will literally collapse on launch day.
Wow. Okay. Let me see if I grasp this human element. Because the documents show they spent months, literally months, running specialized workshops on data strategy, identity management, and metadata imagery before the heavy lifting even began.
Yeah, months of just talking and mapping.
Was that just to get everyone to agree on standard definitions? Because I can imagine, like, one broadcaster defines a user session completely differently than another.
It went far deeper than simply agreeing on a dictionary of terms, though that was part of it. These cross-party workshops were fundamentally designed to forge a unified target operating model.
Okay, target operating model. I hear that thrown around a lot in business settings. Is that just like a fancy corporate way of saying a rule book for who gets to make decisions?
It's much more than a rule book. It is the actual wiring of the operational engine. Think of it this way. When an issue inevitably happens in a shared ecosystem, who owns the problem?
Oh, the classic blame game.
Exactly. If you do not have a robust target operating model, a failure just results in endless finger-pointing between organizations.
It's your server. No, it's your app.
Right. So these workshops secured ironclad alignment on precise responsibilities, roles, and these highly strict change control processes. It wasn't about finding a soft compromise that made everyone feel warm and fuzzy.
No room for egos, basically.
None. It was about establishing the absolute laws of physics for how this new ecosystem would function. And once those rules were set, decisions could be made swiftly and safely.
Okay, so you establish these laws of physics with the governance framework, but eventually, theory has to meet reality. Those technical complexities start actively colliding during the execution phase.
Oh, absolutely they do.
And I really want to talk about those invisible mechanics. Because streaming feels like magic to the viewer, right? I hit play, video plays. But under the hood, you have to securely synchronize user authentication, consent management, viewing data reporting all across completely different systems. Did they essentially just merge all their individual servers into one giant super server to handle all this?
No, actually, that is a very common misconception. They didn't bulldoze their existing massive infrastructures to build a single mega server.
Okay, so how did they connect it all?
The real achievement was creating a highly visible, centralized nervous system that could seamlessly route traffic and data between all those legacy systems without dropping a single signal.
How do you even keep track of that without it turning into just a tangled mess of spaghetti code? Because, like, if I log in, my consent might go to one organization's server.
Right.
My viewing habits get logged by a completely separate analytics platform, and the actual video is being served by something else entirely.
This is where the cross-functional delivery really proved its worth. And they do it specifically through the use of highly visible dependency logs.
Dependency logs?
Yeah. Instead of working in closed-off organizational silos, the engineering and product teams relied on these logs that mapped out exactly how one tiny delay or change cascaded across the entire national network.
Wait, let's ground this for the listener really quick. Give me a hypothetical scenario. How does a delay in something seemingly boring like the metadata supply chain actually threaten the video streaming team's work?
Okay, let's use the live sports example again. The metadata supply chain is responsible for delivering the text and the thumbnail image of that upcoming game to the platform interface.
Right, the little picture you click on?
Exactly. So if there is a lag in that supply chain and the thumbnail doesn't load into the database on time, millions of people log on and just see a blank box where the game should be.
Oh, no. And what happens? Do they just stare at it, or do they try to click the blank space?
Yeah. They try to click it over and over. Or worse, the application itself crashes because it's trying to render an image asset that doesn't exist.
Wow.
Suddenly, the servers are overwhelmed with error requests before a single frame of video is even requested by a viewer. The streaming team's perfectly engineered video delivery is completely sidelined.
Just because a simple image file failed to load? That is wild.
Yep. So the visibility of the dependency logs meant that the streaming team knew instantly if the metadata team was experiencing a delay.
So they could prep for it.
They could adjust their schedules, run interference, and mitigate that exact kind of systemic crash before the public ever saw it.
See, here's where it gets really interesting, though. You've got these dependency logs preventing organizational train wrecks behind the scenes. But all that back-office harmony doesn't mean anything if the infrastructure literally melts the second the public turns on their televisions.
True.
How did they prepare the architecture for the sheer brute force of a national audience tuning into live television at the exact same moment?
Well, they engineered the platform around a zero-failure standard for quality of service.
Zero failure. That's a bold standard.
It has to be. Live national television is a synchronized mass event. Millions of devices hit the network at the exact same millisecond. To handle that impossible load, they had to implement massive automated failover systems and rely heavily on highly scaled delivery networks.
Hold on. For those of us not, building a streaming infrastructure every day, a content delivery network that's basically a system of distributed servers that stores the video closer to the user's physical location, right?
That's right.
So someone sitting in a specific city isn't fetching the live video from a centralized hub hundreds of miles away. They're pulling it from a server right down the street.
That is the foundational mechanism, yes.
Yeah.
It invents a massive bottleneck at a single central location.
Right.
But what elevated this team's achievement was the incredibly sophisticated quality monitoring tools they integrated across the entire supply chain.
Like tracking the health of the stream.
Exactly. They were not just checking a dashboard to see if a central server was technically turned on. They had total real-time visibility into the actual health of the stream as it reached the viewer's living room.
Wow, so they could see trouble before the viewer even noticed it.
Exactly that. If a specific regional node started experiencing anomalies, meaning, the video might stutter in the next few seconds, the system would instantly automatically route those viewers to a robust backup system.
Seamlessly, without the viewer ever seeing the dreaded spinning wheel of buffering.
Completely seamlessly.
Right.
Before a single frame dropped, the failover was already complete.
That is incredible. Which brings us to the highest stakes moment of any mega project. Go live.
The big day.
Right, you've done the workshops, you've built the nervous system, you've stress tested the infrastructure for millions. Now the national public is waiting. I can only imagine the pressure in the room during those final weeks.
That's intense.
But rather than chaotic scrambling, the project team exhibited this incredible, military-level discipline.
Yeah, the process they relied upon is called a promote-to-live tech plan. You don't simply flip a giant metaphorical switch and hope the system holds.
I'd hope not.
No, they utilized exhaustive gating routines to control the release.
Gating meaning you cannot proceed to step B until step A is 100% verified and locked.
Correct. They mapped out comprehensive environment plans, so the software moved carefully from isolated testing environments into staging environments and finally into production.
Step by step.
Right, with rigorous pre-flight checks executed across all technical zones. Just like a pilot checking the instruments before takeoff, every single integration point between these historically separate organizations had to be re-verified under simulated load before the public was granted access.
I want to ask about one specific, really fascinating detail from their launch readiness strategy, which was the execution of a massive platform freeze.
Yes.
Because this happened right before a huge, high-traffic summer sporting event. Set the scene for us. What does a platform freeze actually entail in practice?
It essentially means locking down the entire code base across all participating organizations.
It's completely locked.
Completely. No non-critical updates, no minor tweaks, absolutely no new features are allowed to be pushed to the live environment for a highly specified period. When the nation tuned in for that sporting event, the platform was turned into a static, impenetrable fortress.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't a strict code freeze incredibly frustrating for developers? You've got these brilliant engineers who have been working hard on cool new features, maybe a new personalized recommendation algorithm, and suddenly they're told, hands off the keyboards for a month. Doesn't that kill momentum and just stifle innovation?
It absolutely can, if the organizational culture is immature. But this team understood the ultimate hierarchy of needs in national broadcasting. Protecting the live viewer experience is the pinnacle achievement. It completely trumps any individual feature release.
I guess that makes sense.
Because that shiny new recommendation algorithm means absolutely nothing if the live stream of a championship final drops out in the last 10 minutes.
People would riot. They wouldn't care about the algorithm.
Exactly. The freeze was universally understood, not as a punishment to developers, but as a protective shield around their collective, massive hard work.
It's a really interesting shift in mindset. Executing launch day is a lot like successfully launching a billion-dollar satellite into orbit. The tension is immense. But building that target operating model we talked about earlier that is about running mission control for the next 10 years to ensure the satellite's orbit doesn't decay.
That is the perfect way to frame the challenge. The day after a launch is when the relentless real-world work actually begins.
Right.
When you aggregate multiple major national content providers onto a single ecosystem, the biggest long-term threat isn't a simple server failure. It's operational ambiguity.
Right. Going back to the classic, it's not my server, it's your app defense. If a stream starts buffering endlessly for a viewer at home who actually fixes it, in the old world, it might take, 3 days of email chains between different companies just to figure out whose fault it was.
Exactly. Which is why they dedicated so much effort to creating a truly cross-party incident management system. The team meticulously mapped out the identity of every single component in the platform and assigned strict, undeniable ownership.
So everyone knew their exact lane.
Yes. And then they build clear, universally accepted triage workflows.
So what does that look like in practice? Is there just a giant shared dashboard everyone logs into?
It involves shared diagnostic tools, yes,
Yeah.
and highly integrated out-of-hours contact centers. They connected the technology so deeply that different broadcasters and even the hardware device manufacturers could seamlessly collaborate on in-life support.
That's huge.
If an application needed an emergency update or a stream started dropping frames, everyone was looking at the exact same data, speaking the exact same operational language. If we connect this to the bigger picture, they engineered operational empathy to match the technical engineering.
Operational empathy. I really, really like that phrase.
It means they could resolve incidents together as a unified front, rather than retreating into their legacy corporate silos to just protect their own turf.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've traced this incredible journey from the audacious vision of unifying a nation's top broadcasters through the rigorous governance and workshops, those dependency logs preventing metadata disasters, the high-wire act of a frozen code go live, right down to the deeply cooperative cross-party incident management.
It really proves that true innovation at a massive national scale requires shifting focus from pure technical engineering to cross-functional problem solving.
The human element.
Always. Having a grand technical vision is completely useless without the unglamorous bedrock, the governance, the triage workflows, the strict component ownership. Knowledge and technology are only valuable when they are successfully applied and maintained. This team proved that rigorous readiness and a unified operating model are the actual foundations of reliable public service media in the digital age.
It brings up a really profound realization about our modern world, I think. The greatest engineering feats of the 21st century are designed to be completely invisible. We used to build massive steel bridges you could stare at in awe. Now we build sprawling digital fortresses whose sole metric of success is that you never realize they are there.
The total silence of a flawless stream is the ultimate proof of their achievement.
It leaves me with a thought I want you to mull over as you go about your day. As this level of flawless, unified, multi-provider delivery becomes the absolute baseline as we expect perfection every time we hit play, how will our expectations as viewers continue to shift? If a dedicated team can perfectly unite totally disparate, historically independent content streams behind the scenes, creating this invisible mega-transit system without a single commuter noticing the construction, will the massive walls between all global streaming giants eventually have to come down?
Yeah.
Will they be forced to use this exact blueprint of shared infrastructure and operational empathy just to keep us watching? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening to Reinventing Broadcast. Subscribe for more on AI content and the future of media. And visit Ancast.tv for more info on Ben himself, the resources, other content, and news.